Most people that I see at multiple six figures, they are undercharging, they're underpriced, which is now what's creating the cash flow issues. I never want to be in a situation where I am reliant on someone on my financial team to tell me about my money. They should not know more about your business money than you. Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Educator Podcast. My name is Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas. I am a former teacher, former school principal, turned full-time entrepreneur. I also happen to be a Harvard grad. I'm CEO and founder of Seven Figure Educator, where we help educators just like you package their brilliance into a seven-figure education consulting business. So during today's episode, I want to dive into a topic that I deeply believe is the hidden curriculum to business. I want to talk about business finances and the people that you should have on your team in order to help manage and structure your business finances. Now, I want to have this conversation to kind of go through these different roles and zooming in on three key roles. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I've had a couple of instances where folks in our community, they're like, EJT, I need a CFO. I need a CFO because X, Y, and Z is happening. And it usually happens for folks at the multiple six-figure mark where they just deeply believe that they need a CFO. And I'm actually like, no, you just need to get tighter with your bookkeeper. Like there's a couple of steps that you have to take before to really be able to lay the foundation for where you're going. So during this episode, we're going to talk through, well, who is a CFO? Why a CFO? When a CFO? How's that different than a bookkeeper? So that way you have this knowledge to be able to move appropriately in your business. Now, I said that finances are the hidden curriculum to business, and I want to talk a little bit more around what I mean by that. So one of the observations that I've been making about the past around 24 months as I've been more intentional around the rooms that I'm in, intentional of getting in the room with 8-figure entrepreneurs, 9-figure entrepreneurs, the way they talk about business is steeped in numbers. They know their numbers like the back of their hand. They know their profit margin. They know their cost of goods sold, their COGS. They know their CAC, the cost of acquiring a customer. They know their LTV, the lifetime value of a customer. They know their AOV, their average order value. They know their numbers. So the former high school math teacher in me is going to take advantage of this opportunity to say, this is why we all need to be math people. And a part of growing your business is you have to deeply know your numbers. And that means that you have to understand who you need on your team to support you in giving you the information that you need to know. Hey, y'all, I want to take a quick moment to pop in. I know the episode's getting really juicy, but I could not miss the opportunity to make sure that you know that we are headed to Atlanta October 3rd through 5th for Seven Figure Educator Live. This is my 3-day live event. It is the only 3-day live event for education consultants who are out here making a big impact and getting a big bank. And even if you feel like your bank ain't that big yet, I want you in the room because that's how your bank gets bigger, okay? I have curated a very special 3-day agenda that includes powerhouse speakers, 7, 8, 9-figure speakers, intentional networking to find your people, to find your next opportunity. Y'all, we're getting ready to take the city over, and we're taking it over at a 5-star property, okay? Meet me in Atlanta, October 3rd through 5th. Grab your ticket by heading to sevenfigureeducator.com. I'll link it in the show notes, and I'll see you there. I want to break down 3 specific roles that you're going to need in your business to support you in being able to create this financial infrastructure. So the first person that we're going to talk through, which is actually probably the one that we're most familiar with, even before we start and grow and launch businesses, this is an accountant, where you're going to need someone who will prepare your taxes. And most of us have an accountant that we work with even before we start businesses, because we have someone who will prepare the taxes for us, right? So they'll might be preparing your personal taxes, and then when you start a business now, there is a different schedule that you have to file with your taxes. So you actually might be working with the same person in your business from a tax preparation standpoint than you were when you were filing your taxes personally. So that's the accountant, and we're really going to zoom in on their role as a tax preparer. So when it comes to when you should be working with an accountant, well, I mean, I'm hoping you filing your taxes now. So this is the role, like I said, that we are most familiar with because we're filing taxes even individually. The second role is a bookkeeper. So this is the role where you likely didn't have personally, right? Because you ain't got books as a person, as an individual. Now, as a business, you have to maintain clean, healthy books, and that's the role of a bookkeeper. So when we think about their role, they have the responsibility of managing your books. And when we say managing your books, we mean that they are reconciling your books on an ongoing basis. My rule that I like to follow is I prefer that my bookkeeper is reconciling weekly. And when I say reconciling, meaning if you are in a software like QuickBooks and you have all of your accounts connected to QuickBooks, you have all of your charges, all of your income, everything is dropping into QuickBooks, and the bookkeeper should be going in weekly to actually match the income with whatever line items you have set up. They're matching expenses with whatever line items you have set up. So they are reconciling your books weekly. Now, some bookkeepers might have a different cadence in terms of when they reconcile. I require my bookkeeper to reconcile weekly because I need to be able to see the reports weekly. I can't wait until the end of the month to be able to be a check and balance of the income and expenses in the business. The other thing that they do is they prepare financial statements. So when I say financial statements, the big ones are going to be your P&L and your balance sheet. So when it comes to your P&L and balance sheet, your P&L is your profit and loss statement. Your balance sheet is what outlines all of your assets and liabilities in the business. And so for a bookkeeper, they're going to be sending you a monthly P&L statement, a finalized P&L statement. Your balance sheet should be finalized once a month. I recommend that is finalized no later than the 15th of the month. It's actually great if they can finalize the previous month's statements by the 10th of the month. But your bookkeeper is really in that seat of being able to prepare those statements for you so you have a snapshot of how money is flowing in and out of your business. Now, here's one thing to note about a bookkeeper, and this is actually true for all financial positions that you're going to have in your business. They should not know more about your business money than you. So I never want to be in a situation where I am reliant on someone on my financial team to tell me about my money. If anything, the relationship, the way you want to set that up is as a check and balance, where I've actually already looked at my numbers for the week. And therefore, when I look at the statements my bookkeeper has provided me for the week, I'm doing a checks and balance of, are things coded correctly? My profit margin? Is that the profit margin that I anticipate? Because again, your bookkeeper isn't going to know more about your business. And there has been opportunities where I'd have to give feedback on how things are coded. If, let's say, a Stripe account for one reason or another goes unconnected to QuickBooks and now there's revenue that's missing, I can spot that and should be able to flag that. And so that's where you really want to be thinking about your own weekly practice of being able to get deep in your numbers to be able to be a partner with your bookkeeper rather than a passive observer with your bookkeeper. Now, another piece here on this bookkeeper level is oftentimes what I see for a lot of people in the early stage when it comes to their bookkeeping relationship, they allow their bookkeeper to determine the structure of their profit and loss statement. And what I mean by that is on a profit and loss statement, you're going to have the way it's going to be organized is you're going to have an income section at the top, and under income, you'll have different line items. Then you'll have your expenses in the second half, which will have different line items. And then down at the bottom, you're going to have your net income, which you can also consider to be your profit. So oftentimes what I see many people doing is they really don't have an opinion or say on how their P&L should be structured, and they allow their bookkeeper to make those decisions. And what's problematic about that is your P&L is basically a sheet of data. And so your bookkeeper is basically determining what the standards are in your business. So let's make some educator talk here, educator language of your bookkeeper is determining what are the standards under expenses. Your bookkeeper is determining what are the standards under income. And that's going to determine the quality of data that you're going to get from the bookkeeper, which is why you need to have an opinion around how your P&L should be organized. So for example, rather than having all income just listed as one line item, I actually have my bookkeeping team organize it by service. So that way, at a quick snapshot, I can see which services are making the most money for the week or for the month. I don't have to go digging and run reports. My P&L is already organized under the income section of separating out the different services so I can quickly see income by service. So that's just an example of how you could be managing that relationship, managing up to the bookkeeper to get you what you need. Now, I'm sure there's probably this big question of like, well, when do you hire a bookkeeper, right? I think there's two things to consider of when you're hiring a bookkeeper. The moment you start making six figures, approaching six figures, you absolutely need a bookkeeper. Now, a bookkeeper isn't going to be a significant extreme expense. We're talking a couple $100s a month. And so what your priority is you want to make sure that you have accurate financial statements, because this is what you're using to work with the accountant to file your taxes. So if they're not organized, if they're not clean, then now we have a whole nother scenario of trying to prepare taxes. This is also the document that you're going to be going to banks with when you're having conversations around lending. So you need really clean documents, which is why the earlier you can invest in a bookkeeper, the better. The other thing to consider is when your income and expenses start to get more complex, that's when you want the help of a bookkeeper, because you have more than just travel. When you have multiple line items of expenses, then you want to start organizing that in your P&L and get the help of a bookkeeper. Hey there, I'm popping in really quickly to make sure that you knew about my 7-Figure Business School. It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while, I teach live for 5 days straight. Baby, I'm still a teacher at heart, and it gives me so much joy to teach about the foundations of a 7-figure business. During the 5 days, I'll teach you how to package your offers, I'll teach you pricing, I'll teach you $1 million sales that aren't salesy, and I'll teach you how to find folks to go and pitch your offers to immediately. So do not wait, go ahead, head to the show notes, and I want you to click the link to sign up for our next business school. I'll see you there. All right, so let's move on and talk about a CFO. So I have so many people come to me, they're like, hey, Erica, I feel like I need a CFO. Do you have any recommendations? And most of the time when that happens, people are in the multi-six-figure stage, and they believe they need a CFO because usually there's some type of profitability opportunity where they either feel like they're having cash flow issues or they're not as profitable as they want to be, and they feel like they need a CFO in order to help kind of solve those issues. And I'm not saying a CFO isn't going to help, but most of the time, particularly for people in the multiple six figures, it's really your pricing that is creating those issues, not because you don't have enough information or enough data. Most people that I see at multiple six figures, they are undercharging, they're underpriced, which is now what's creating the cash flow issues. So when we think about a CFO versus a bookkeeper, here's how I want you to think about these two roles differently. A bookkeeper looks backwards. So they look at what's already happened, the money that's already spent, money that's already been made. A CFO looks forward. So they're running projections, they're running cash flow analysis reports, they're helping you create a projected budget for the year. So when we're thinking about when's the time to bring on a CFO, around when you're pushing that 7-figure mark, you absolutely need to be bringing on some type of fractional CFO support, because now you have so much influx of money coming in and out that you really need predictive reports to be able to see the behavior of money in your business to be able to make the most informed decisions. So the role of a CFO is they provide predictive data related to the flow of money in your business. So an example of this, as we mentioned, cash flow reports, budget, of helping you being able to draft out a budget. Your CFO is really a partner when it comes to managing financial data in your business. And so one of the ways that I've used my CFO is helping me run numbers to be able to determine the profitability of each service that we offer. Are we priced appropriately? What service has the highest profit margin? And are we aligning our marketing efforts to be able to actually position the most profitable offer as our core signature offer? So they can help you determine the profitability of particular products and services in your business. They're also your partner to be able to talk through forecasting for hiring, right? So if you have a hiring plan and there's certain investments you want to make in the business, having a conversation with them to be able to get deep in, okay, how much is the salary going to be for this position based upon my cash flow analysis? What's my runway in terms of hiring? What type of reserve do I have? So they're really a thought partner and being able to help you see the data, financial data in your business. So from a CFO standpoint, this is another relationship similar to the bookkeeper where you should be managing up. What KPIs, key performance indicators, financial KPIs do you want to see in your business? And you should be communicating that directly to your CFO so that way they can generate reports for you. I recommend having your CFO generate reports for you on a weekly and monthly basis. And there's certain cash flow reports as well as budget and income reports that they can be providing weekly. And then on a monthly basis, they should be providing a monthly snapshot of your financial metrics in your business. This isn't just a monthly P&L. This should be, okay, how has money moved in the business? How has your reserve moved in the business? What has the impact been on your current liabilities, on your current assets? As your cash on hand, has that increased or decreased? Is the business debt that you're carrying, has that increased or decreased? They really should be able to provide you a snapshot of that picture every month. So this is a super high level overview of these three roles. And like I said, I really wanted to have this conversation because oftentimes I'm seeing people either wait too late, like particularly for the bookkeeper, or try to bring on a CFO too early to solve the wrong problem. And so hopefully this gives you some clarity around the differences between these roles, when to prioritize each of these roles, and how to really be in the driver's seat of these relationships. So head to the comments. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is, your biggest learning. I would love to hear more around how you are digesting this episode. And if you found this episode to be really meaningful, I have 2 requests for you. I want you to hit the subscribe button and share it with a friend, because sharing is caring and we have no intentions of being the best kept secret. We want to ensure that every single educator has the access to a blueprint to be able to increase their financial freedom. My name is Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas, and I'll see you back here on the next episode of the Seven Figure Educator Podcast.